If you run and you don't strength train, you are missing out on a legal performance enhancer and an excellent way to reduce injuries. If you run and you do strength train, that's great, but odds are that you are missing out on some tiny adjustments that you can make to the time you spend strength training to make it much more effective. In either case, we are going to give you the 7 most important exercises runners should do to run faster, longer, and reduce injury. These will be small tweaks on exercises you probably already know about to make these exercises specifically tailored to the needs of runners. What's up, motivators? My name is Taryn. When ordinary people want to accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports, they choose our totally free Motive training plans. You're ready to take on that next big challenge? Let's do it. The problem with most strength training exercises that people prescribe for runners is that they only go one level deep. People think runners use their legs, so let's make legs stronger. Or that runners need a super strong core, so let's start doing core exercises. And these ideas are only kind of correct. Studies have found that one of the biggest factors that will make people a fast and healthy runner is a very small amount of pelvic sag with each foot strike that we take. If, when we're running, our pelvis is dipped from side to side, we are putting torque on our bodies that can cause injury, and we are leaking energy away from simply moving ourselves forward. The key is that the legs and core need to know how to be strong together at the same time. And that's what these exercises we are going to give you here will do. They're all designed to strengthen our legs and our core while teaching the legs and the core to work together in one strong unit. Let's dive in by picking on the squat first. A traditional squat locks everything off into one range of motion so that yes, the legs are getting stronger, but the core doesn't need to know how to work very hard. And we can make this more practical for runners with a couple of alternatives. Take that same squat that you do and add a little bit of weight just to one side of your body. This is called a racked squat, and you can do it with a kettlebell or a dumbbell where the weight is held up at your shoulder only on one side. By nature, you're still going to be doing the squat, making your legs much stronger, but that weight is going to pull you off to one side, so your entire core is going to have to activate to keep you nice and level in the shoulders, the hips, and the knees. You want to even this out by holding that rack on each side of your body, leveling out any imbalances. So this isn't just going to make our legs stronger, it's also going to level out our body, making sure that we don't have one side that is stronger than the other. The second version of the squat that we can add in is a Cossack squat. So a Cossack squat is where you hold weight in front of your body, and then instead of just squatting down into that nice hack squat kind of position where you're locked in, you're pulling off to the side by squatting far off to the side, which opens up your hips into a little bit of a weaker position. And then to get back, you are having to squeeze your hips. So you're not just activating one set of muscle groups that is a very linear range of motion, we're activating muscle groups on the side of our body, pushing and pulling ourselves in order to be able to lower and raise ourselves up and down. The next exercise that can be improved upon is the deadlift. Now, I freaking love deadlifts, and they are probably the best all-around exercise that there is. Do them a lot, but mix them in with some of these alternatives. The first one being a suitcase deadlift. Again, you can do this with a kettlebell or a dumbbell, and what you do is you place the weight in front of your shins, basically where a bar would be if you were doing a deadlift. But the key is that you only do this with weight on one side. As you're doing this, your weight is again going to be pulled across, loading up one side of your body, but in order to actually be able to stand, you're gonna have to activate your core and pull yourself away from that weight to keep your shoulders, trunk, and knees lined up. Do the motion exactly the same way that you would do with a bar, but doing it with this one-sided weight is going to cause you to have that same nice deadlift motion, but with the added benefit of stabilizing your entire core and tying your core into the strength that is being produced in your legs. The second alternative to a deadlift that I would recommend is a single leg deadlift. And this is where you are putting weight again on one side, but instead of having both feet on the ground, you only have one foot on the ground. This is going to cause you to be really unstable. A pro tip for this is to find one stationary speck on the floor about 8 feet in front of you and keep your eyes glued to that. Activate the leg that you are kicking back by clenching your butt just a little bit and trying to keep your chest level with the surface of the ground. Don't tilt your shoulders back and forth. This is going to activate that core immensely, stretching out the leg that is planted a little bit, and then when you pull yourself back to stand up again, you're getting that nice strength movement that you get from a deadlift. The next really common exercise that we'll adjust a little bit to help runners out is the kettlebell swing. Again, I love the kettlebell swing for working on the back of the body and creating really big explosive power. This helps runners a lot. But we can make some adjustments to that and mix in a couple different alternatives to the simple kettlebell swing. Of course, do the kettlebell swing, but occasionally do the kettlebell swing with just a single arm so that you're having to lock off your core and plant your legs and be nice and stable. Another alternative that you can add in that is very similar to a kettlebell swing, but adds a little bit of dynamic movement so that you have to make sure that your entire body is planted and stable, is adding in a high pull. This is where you do a kettlebell swing with one arm, and then as the weight is coming up, you pull it back into your shoulder. This is going to again activate the back of our body, balancing out the front and back strength of our entire body, but it's also going to add in that little bit of stability, tying the legs and the core together. The final really common strength exercise that we're going to adjust is the sit-up. And this is a very simple one to adjust, but really hard when you actually start doing it. And instead of just doing a regular sit-up, which again is very linear and it only uses a small amount of muscle groups, is to add in a weight overhead. So an overhead weighted sit-up with a kettlebell or a dumbbell will force you to really plant and activate that core all the way across your body, tying everything from the hand that is up in the air all the way down to the opposite pelvis together into one strong unit. Let's round out the final 7 exercises with some alternative strength movements that you might not know about. The first one being carries. A lot of people have heard about farmer carries, and I would augment these farmer carries by just having the weight on one side. Having the weight on one side is going to pull you over to that side, and the natural tendency is going to be to pull away from that weight. But what you want to do is keep yourself perfectly upright with your shoulders over top of your hips, which are over top of your feet. Having to work to stay perfectly upright and not lean one way or another is going to put a huge amount of stress on your core to activate your core and your legs. And because we're walking, it's really similar to the running movement where we are actually activating everything from our big toe all the way up to our shoulder. You can do carries with the weight down at your waist, up in the rack position, or
on the kettlebell while I sit up onto my elbow, onto my hand. You're going to lift your hips in the air and then swing your leg through into a lunge. Come into a half kneeling position. At this point, you can look straight ahead and then stand up. And then on the way down, step back into reverse lunge, put my knee down, start looking at the kettlebell again. I'm gonna hinge my hips towards the kettlebell side while I put my left hand down. I'm gonna swing my left leg through, elbow down, shoulder to shoulder, and then bring the kettlebell down safely. That's the Turkish get-up.
Of your range of motion. Very similar to the Turkish get-up is the windmill. Having a weight overhead is naturally going to cause us to have to stabilize our entire core and our legs, but then as we start bending down into the windmill position and stretching and strengthening and then squeezing our glutes to pull ourselves back up, this is activating all of the side-to-side stabilizer muscles of the body instead of just being locked into one sole range of motion that is very linear and very straightforward. We want to add a little bit of weight into ends of the range of motion so that we're not just mobile, but we're also strong. And we're not just strong, but we're also mobile. If we can be strong at the end of our range of motion, we are going to be less likely to get to the end of our range of motion and not have any strength to stabilize ourselves. Making sure that energy is always held into that nice, stable core and leg unit that we want to tie together. These aren't the only strength exercises that I'd recommend for runners. Strength is far better than no strength. Don't fuss over getting it exactly right. What you can see is that with the strength exercises that we put into the training plans in the Motive app, we use a lot of weight on one side to force that stable connection between the legs and the core, and a teeny little bit of instability, not exercise ball shaking uncontrollably instability, but a little bit of instability to make sure our positions aren't locked in, doing all of the stabilization for us. Now, you don't have to do this on your own. You can get all of this for free with a personalized training plan through the Motive app. Just go to mymotive.com and you can set up a personalized training plan for you that includes all of these exercises and more, all periodized at the very best time for your training plan and your goals. Finally, if you like the idea of getting more out of your running, click the video that's on the screen right now that discusses a study that discovered a technique for how to run 3 to 8% faster with the exact same effort level. Later, motivators.